Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the AMA Entertainment TV Network. I'm your host for this evening. I go by the Visual Goat, and today we have a very special guest in the building. Now, look, if y'all been, your whole life maybe like hiding under a rock somewhere, like Patrick off SpongeBob or something, you might not know who this guest is. You know what I'm saying? But if you actually been, you actually been out here in the world and you see what's going on, then you already know who we got at the end of the day. So I'm just gonna let her introduce herself because I'm pretty sure she can give herself a way better introduction than I can. So go ahead and let the people know who we got in here with us today.
Oh, man, you got the one and only Tabitha Duncan of the infamous group called Cut Close in the house, in the building, 1/3 of the member. Here I am, live and in freaking doggone healthy and just wonderful.
That's right. That's right. I wish I had the little applause drop at the time. I would have put that in there. That's the perfect time to put it. All right. So to start off, can you of course you just announced who you are and everything. So um I'll dive into a few of the questions that I have for you. So what we're gonna dive straight into it. So of course you said that you're 1/3 of the of Cut Close. So what made you sorry, before Cut Close became a multi-platinum group, what was your personal journey into music? Like how was that for you before you became a member of Cut?
I think that everybody's introduced to music through their families. But my family happened to be very musically inclined because I'm one of 15. My daddy is a preacher. Well, he was a preacher. He passed away last year.
Sorry.
My mom passed away of COVID. So my family is today is actually her birthday, my mom's birthday. And so we were like, in a position where it's happy heavenly birthday to my mommy. But I come from a long list of family members that have musical backgrounds. I think it's kind of hard to be from such a big family and not have that somewhere in the path or in the making, right? So I was introduced to it by being born into this family. There's a lot of my siblings that are very musically inclined when it comes down to playing instruments, and everybody feels like they can sing. You know what I'm saying? I just happen to be the one of the ones that actually made it out there in the secular world. Because my family is very church oriented. So being a member of the Christian faith, and being brought up with a father that was I guess a strict preacher, if you will, in the apostolic faith uh, denomination. Um, Music was real big in the church and in my family, so that's where I picked up all of the skills from my dad. Played the piano, he played the guitar, anything that he could get his hands on, so he introduced us, at a very young age.
Okay, okay. So that's how you got introduced to it. So then you go to the next phase, right? So when you get to the area, the time frame of being a member of Cut Close, like, can you talk about how that came about, like how you became to be a member of Cut Close?
When I decided music for myself, I moved from Indianapolis, Indiana, which is where I graduated high school. I'm not from there. I'm from Muskegon, Michigan. That's where I was born, but I moved to Indianapolis when I was 13 years old, and so that's where I went my junior high and my high school years. But growing up in church, such a strict family, background, I kind of was a little rebellious and wanted to become my own. So I kind of ran away with my boyfriend and moved to Atlanta after I graduated high school. And he was a personal assistant for Babyface. And so it was kind of easy for me to dip into that because, I kind of was writing songs before I left home. And I was working with him and my cousin, who is my dad's brother's son. And so he introduced me to my boyfriend at the time. And he was a part of this gospel group called Deliverance back in Indianapolis, Indiana. They were on this record label called Ty Scott Records. And so I was introduced to him, and I became a little bit more involved in the music and a little bit more interested in seeing how it would go. But when I moved to Atlanta after graduating high school, that was all of us, spare of the moment kind of thing, because I was supposed to go to college, I was supposed to go to Indiana State and run track. What I thought I was going to do, I was going to be an Olympic track runner. That was my forte. I never really planned on me being in the industry. That was not in the plans. I just know that I like to sing because my upbringing in church and being in a position to have some of that, being reached, being in school too. So when I moved to Atlanta in 1991, I was my boyfriend's girlfriend, obviously, and so since he was the personal assistant for Babyface, I started to get into a lot of different things inside the industry because it was right there. And so that's when I was introduced to TLC, and that was the light that basically turned on the idea of me. I can do this too. You know what I mean? So that's how I formulated Cut Close, just off of looking at what it brought them and, being, influenced. I was a young girl. I was 18 years old when I moved here. So, people still could have some kind of influential powers over me. And TLC did that for me. And that's what influenced me to get my own girl group together. So I kind of fashioned it off, and I'm already short. So, it just had to look, there was a certain look that, it looked like, and that's what I built. You know what I mean? I'm the chocolate one of the group. You know what I'm saying? I was like, can't nobody else be darker than me. You know what I mean? We already got a chocolate girl. We had to give them, some rainbow stuff. You know what I mean? So everybody else fit the mold in the ways that they came. So when I decided that I wanted to do a 3-girl group, because I wanted as many as girls to get a harmony out of it and not have so many girls, because that's problems when you get a whole bunch of women together. You know what I mean? So I didn't want the old cliche saying of, when you get a lot of women together, you know what happens. So I wanted to keep it small. And so, I kept it as a 3-part harmony. It could be harmony and not just 2. I felt like it was unfinished when it came down to harmonic, ears or whatever. So I decided for it to be 3, and I fashioned it off of, my height, my color, the sound. I'm the deep one, so I'm the tenor, and I needed alto and I needed a soprano, and it went in that order. So I found Athena first. Once I put the APB out saying that I was looking for some girls to create a group, we just put our foot to the pavement and went and searched and got what we have right now. So Athena came because, it was a friend of my boyfriend's who, when we asked people if they knew anybody that could sing, he had a demo tape of his niece, and his niece was Athena. And so I got her demo tape and heard her. I was like, oh my gosh, she's phenomenal. And I called her up and asked her would she be willing to be a part of a girl group. And she said that she would, and she was actually a solo artist at the time, and she was trying to get into the business, just like I was or whatever. And so she took a shot, and came to Atlanta, and we met each other and was like, hey, man, we clicked really, really well. And so that was basically the beginning, you know, and it's been curtain since then, you know what I mean? So I'm trying to just follow my path, and whatever that looks like, and hopefully I can make a good decision for whatever adversity is in front of me.
Yeah, I mean that's all we can.
In the
I'm
music,
sorry.
I was around it. It was for me, because there's a lot of people in the industry or in the world that can sing. A lot of people, and they can sing certain, curtains around, cut close. You know what I mean? Like there's always somebody phenomenal when you've been given that gift. And mind you, that gift that we're given is free. We didn't have to pay anything for that. You know what I'm saying? So you have to do its due diligence and, doing what you're supposed to do when you have it and see what happens for you. Which way is the world going to open up and receive you? And, so I threw some rocks out there, and that joker was like, I want some more. You know what I'm saying? So here it is, baby.
That's right. That's right. I can see why it wasn't hard for you to find people to connect with. You know what I'm saying? Because everybody doesn't have that. You know what I'm saying? That personality that just that draws you in. You know what I'm saying? Like and that's one thing I can tell that you have is like personality that's just easy to draw other good energy in. You know what I mean?
Sucking you in it, boy. Sucking you in, boy. That's what's going on. What I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying?
Nah, for sure. Um, so being in the group Cut Close, and um being a multi platinum group, and I know that comes with like a lot of pressure. Like how were you able to navigate all that pressure to continuously have to keep on putting out, you know, that heat every time?
Hey, man, you have to read the room. You know what I'm saying? No matter where you at, and I'm still learning to this day. I mean, if I'm talking to you and you talking to me, there's still something that we have yet to learn, right? So you have to be, I guess, open to new things, new experiences, even if it ain't what you've been hoping for or been wishing for. But those I've learned that are the best, lessons is the ones that's hard. You know what I'm saying? Growing pains ain't never been so real, that statement. Because that word pain, that joker is something else. You feel me? It comes in a lot of shapes and forms, and so you have to open yourself to any kind of trial or tribulation because it's there to make you better. It's there to help you grow. I have a daughter that's in basketball and she's 14 now, but she used to be like, "Mommy, my knees hurt, my knees hurt." I'm like, "Girl, why your knees hurt?" She's like, "I don't know, man. My knees hurt all the time." And I'm sitting here and doing research and everything, and I come to find out it's called growing pains. You know what I mean? The knee, kind of like has to catch up, you know what I mean? With the body and how it, but it has a way that it formulates itself. You know what I'm saying? But it's doing some work. You know what I'm saying? That's why it's hurting. You know what I mean? And she ain't know it until like, a couple months later. And I'm looking up at her like a skyscraper. I'm like, yo, man, when you laid down last night, you know what I'm saying? This nigga took off like a rocket. You know what I'm saying? But during that time, she was growing.
Mm.
She was growing and it was hurting her knees. She's like, I need some relief. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, I don't know what to do because, it ain't really nothing. What I'm gonna do, put you in some braces, man? This is just how it goes. You know what I mean? And so
Mm.
I didn't realize what it was until, a little bit later. And so I say that to say that there's a reason why you go through things that's hard. Because it is, to keep up, running like, oh man, trip. You know what I'm saying? You go in there looking all fly, makeup be all good and stuff when you walk into that door called the music industry. You know what I'm saying? You go outside, freaking doggone. Eyelash coming off, come outside, you know what I'm saying? One side of your face is fucking inflated. Oh, my bad, freaking inflated, you know what I mean? And so, you go through some bumps and some bruises. You know what I
Mm.
mean? You look like your one leg, one shoe, one heel came off. You know what I'm saying? So you go through some things, car accidents, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
The trials and tribulations that we go through in life or whatever. So you just gotta, you gotta prepare yourself for failing and not being afraid because you failed to get back up and try that again. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what it is. And then I also found myself um, a lot earlier in my day being more upset about things happening in the way that I felt like it should not. Right.
Mm.
And so I feel like that's wasted time. You know what I'm saying? It's wasted time to be upset over things that, not only that you don't really understand, that you can't even change in a sense. So you have to understand it for what it is and play your part in whatever that looks like. You know what I'm saying? And you'll know what that looks like because you'll be in it. So I would give patience to those things instead of my anger. You know what I'm saying? And so it would have put me in a position where I could have appreciated the business more than despise it. Because there are times that you go through where you feel like, oh man, I can't stand this stuff. But I'm like, no matter where you at, no matter what you're going through, no matter what kind of job you got, you're going to go through some trials and tribulations that's going, test your nuts. You know what I'm saying? You're going to fall and hit your forehead, chin, or whatever. You fall off that bike and scrape your knee. You know what I'm saying? Be like,
Yeah.
oh man, if you go through your childhood and never fall and scrape your knee, how you gonna know what it feels like to even, you know what I mean? And
Right.
that's how it is in real life, you know. And so, I have more of a respect for how things are and knowing what place I need to play and the place that I need to take in order to continue what I bring instead of interrupting the movement and wasting time that's not utilized, you know? And so I don't want to regret the time that I didn't utilize because it'll just make you mad. You know what I'm saying? So you have to you have to ingest it and let it work for you in the ways that it can, so you can enjoy life and look at an optimistic form instead of a pessimistic form. Because you can't change everything. You know what I mean? Everybody ain't no Superman or no Superwoman, you know what I mean? But you can be the best Superwoman that you can be, you know what I mean? So that's what I'm learning.
Okay.
And that's where I appreciate it even more, because now I have a respect for it instead of a hate for it, you
Right.
know? And that's just
So
lack of understanding, really.
right. Right. So speaking of Superwoman, I mean, with you being a woman in the music industry, is I know that's very difficult to be a woman in the music industry just because of the way the industry is, the way a lot of people are in this world. Can you share one piece of advice to any up and coming female artists that probably you think could probably help their career?
The most special gift that you have is yourself, your originality. That's the thing that nobody else has, right? And so when I say that, you have to realize who you are. If you don't know who you are, then you just selling people some bull crap anyway, and you ain't really doggone true to yourself. But know that the specialness that you carry is the specialness that nobody else has. You can be the best you that anybody else can be of you, the version of you. You know what I'm saying? So you have to stay true to, and when I mean stay true, and that means you won't know it all in the beginning, but don't be afraid of it. You know what I mean? But don't ever flee from who you are. You know what I mean? Because everybody else is taken. You know what I mean? And you can't be nobody else. The best person you can be is you. So your superpower is your originality, is your own fingerprint. So don't go and try and be or emulate somebody else, because there's always somebody being that somebody else. We need to know who you are. You know what I mean? Because I'm not the type of person that likes to hear a washed down version of something that I already have a respect for. You know what I mean? I want something, different than what you have to offer. You know what I mean? So when it comes down to just, having a respect for, originality, nobody can play that role. So never stray from yourself, but don't be afraid to change either. You know what I mean? If you see something that you need to straighten up, and always carry truth, but be cognizant of all the things, because sometimes speaking the truth all the time doesn't always take you where you feel like it should. You know what I mean? So just read the room. You know what I mean? And it'll show you and it'll tell you when it's time for you to say certain things. Because sometimes you can say things a little too soon than what you need to. You know what I mean? So have open arms and reception, but never stray away from the original or the originality that you have to give to people, because that is what makes you different. That's what people say, ooh, I want that. I want that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't
Right.
want no other Mary J. Blige. Mary J. is Mary J. We want that Mary J. We don't want no watered down version of Mary J. We got
Facts.
one of those. We already got a scissor. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We got all these people already. So who are you? Let you name or make the name of yourself. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So that's what I feel. And don't be in a way where you have competition, because there's no competition when you're totally being who you are. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So that'll just allow you to be more free and not be uptight and trying to be the better version of Beyonce.
Right.
Beyonce is Beyonce. I don't want no other Beyonce.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I don't want nobody sounding like Beyonce. I want Beyonce being like, you know what I'm saying? I don't.
Right.
I'm not saying not to take people and be like, man, I respect that, and you use them to, fashion yourself or whatever, but still find out who you are,
Right.
you know, and that's very, very important. You know what I'm saying? And that's how you become legends. You
Right.
know what I mean? No one wants a legend of the same make and model of something else.
Right.
That's
That's
not
right.
legendary.
That's right.
That's copycat.
Right. So
You know what I
basically,
mean?
you're saying, let your authenticity, in your originality, just really come out and let that flourish, basically.
Yes, because that's what makes everybody be like, oh, that's her. You know what I mean? It's that thing that can't nobody else give you. You know what I mean? And you got to be that truly, because if you can't, then it's hard to be somebody else better than them.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you got to take what's special about you and nurture that.
Right.
But one thing that you must realize, you cannot lie to the universe. You can't trick it. So if you don't put time in, it ain't coming back to you. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Ain't no easy way to the top. You know what I'm saying? You can't skip ladders in here, even though you feel like you are. There's gonna be always something to be like, Dad, I thought I was through this. Nope. You remember you skipped this on the way in here?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it comes up and it shows in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And sometimes it's ignorance. You know what I'm saying? And that's when
Yeah.
you get those lumps on that forehead looking like you in that ring with Mike Tyson I was telling you about. You go in there looking all fly and stuff. You come out that door looking like you just got beat up, dude. That's what the
Hey,
industry
hey,
gonna do to your behind. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Condition yourself to be ready.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? And
Oh,
no
you
matter what that looks like, you gotta, you kind of gotta be a chameleon. You know what I'm
right.
saying? Because even though I sing, I didn't realize that I had to become a producer. I had to become an engineer. You know what I'm saying? I had to become a dancer. I had to become a confidant. So many different things. And
Mm-hmm.
being just a singer. You know what I mean? Otherwise, I wouldn't have got a lot of stuff done.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you have to kind of put on your armor. You know what I mean? As you go. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And nobody can save you from it. So stop trying to be like, well, I'm not gonna go through such and such. There's certain things that you can avoid.
Mm-hmm.
But you're not gonna avoid, what you think you're about to avoid. You know what I mean? But don't be afraid of it. You know what I mean? 9 times out of 10, you're gonna be able to beast it out. Just don't, you know what I'm saying? Don't run away from it. Everybody, if it's up at your door, that means you're ready.
Right.
And if you ain't, then you'll figure out how to get ready real quick.
Real quick, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's it's gonna test you. You know what I mean? And sometimes you gotta hurry up and get dressed. You know what I'm saying? You ever did somebody ever walking on you in the bathroom? Like, hey man, somebody in here.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Gotta maneuver quick.
What you do?
It'd be the fastest you done ever move.
But you get ready though, right?
For sure, for
You
sure.
be like, shoot, I haven't seen nothing. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just saying, you just gotta be prepared to be on top of your stuff. You know what I mean?
Right.
And when I say you can't trick the universe. You gotta put your time in. You can't skip. You know what I
Okay.
mean? You're gonna have to learn how to grow up. You know what I
Right.
mean? And
Right.
how to mature. And the only way to mature is to go through growing pains. You can't avoid it.
Mm-hmm.
You
That's
know
a
what I'm
fact.
saying? This is gonna do a doozy on you. My parents used to say, because my parents used to whoop us with switches and belts and stuff like that.
Oh
And
yeah,
so they used
we
to
all
say
like
to
that.
me, "You gonna wish you could come home and get beat by us, but the world started beating you." And I was like, "What the heck are you talking about, man? If the world beat me up, I'm gonna beat them up." You know what I'm saying? I'm
Yeah.
gonna beat them. Man, that's just like you get that saying, when the world start beating you up, you know what you could say? Can you fight legs with swords? Then you'll come across something you gonna have to use your brains for. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? You can't fight legs with no swords. What you gonna do?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Go out there and try to get every locust with your sword? It's not happening, pimp.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, there's creative ways that this world is gonna test you real hard. You know what I mean? It's
Mm.
gonna show you where you at. You know what I mean? And when you meet people, don't be afraid to, be the part that be like that understands where they are with their learning. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Some people are right here, some people are right here. But don't treat the people that's right here in a way that it makes them feel bad for being right here.
Right.
You know what I mean? Be the person that be like, I understand where you are. You know what I mean? To get them to understand, to realize, so they can grow and not
Right.
just be mad and stay right here. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, you have to meet people with where they're at and their learning, and give them some grace. You know what I mean? Give them a little time. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Because what we going to do? Beat babies up when the first time they fall when they try to walk? I told you, you're supposed to fall. What?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I get you. I get you.
So just don't be afraid to grow. But truth will always prevail. But never let anybody take away your specialness, man. That's all you got. You know what I mean? And so Even when it comes down to just understanding the way of the world, don't let anybody ever make you feel like you're always looking up at them and they always looking down at you. That's why I don't like the word celebrity or a star.
Right, I
Because
understand.
it makes people feel like, and it's like, no, bruh, you're on the same level as everybody else. Don't get it twisted. You
Yeah,
know what I'm saying?
just got accomplishments. That's it. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
that's it.
I
I
get
got something that I was consistent with, but I'm
right.
trying to teach you how to be consistent in doing what's for you. And don't look at my lane to say this is what I want if life ain't showing you that. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying? You got to make sure that you pay attention to what's happening in your life so you can do your due diligence in what you're here for. You know what I mean? Because everybody that can sing ain't made to be in the industry.
True.
Everybody who can sing ain't made to have no platinum records. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
They wasn't made to be no stars or name in lights or all around the world and be like, oh, I can see myself now. Everybody likes to be like, look at me, look at me. I didn't expect all of this in the way that it came. And a lot of people don't like that conversation because some people try all their lives and they never make it.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I was just following the path and made the decisions that I made. And sometimes the decision wasn't always good.
Right.
You know what I mean? But that doesn't mean that my role was deterred in the way I wasn't on the right path once I understood.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So don't be in a position where you feel like you've missed your mark, and don't be in a position to not pay attention to what the world is telling you if you can't see it. Because some people waste their lives away doing something they shouldn't be doing
Mm-hmm.
because it ain't giving you no feedback.
Right.
And sometimes it's singing, and you can sing your behind off. You know what I'm saying? But so you have to be really cognizant of finding out what is for you. And that's a lifelong journey for some people. But you realize that on the way to receiving something or to getting to a destination, the journey and the enjoyment is the middle.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You know what I mean? And the middle is what? It's all the freaking doggone cuts and bruises that you get from learning and growing pains.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So you
Right.
have to accept it in a different light so you don't look at it where it's been a failure to you, but it was something that helped you grow.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it was some painful stuff that you didn't really understand at the moment.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. I agree. I agree. So, um, so going forward from there, like what are you specifically like? What are you doing like not right now as far as like your career? Like what are you doing? Are you acting? Are you still singing? Are you doing like what exactly are you into now?
Well, I'm steady always writing, and I'm steady trying to figure out how I fit into this thing because, people think that, when you have we've been in the business for almost 31 years now, so, when people grow up to your music and you become some sense of icon in their life with music and stuff, be like, oh, I remember them growing up through my first kiss or my, first making love, my first baby, and first husband or whatever. All the first things that's happened, you remember all the time because those are the euphoric moments of your life that you'll never forget. Oh, I remember being young and I was so fly back then, and now I got a big stomach. Or I'm saying, I got rolls on my back. You know what I'm saying? Stuff that, you know what I mean? That music means to you when it really matters if you just going and growing through different things or whatever. And so just realizing the place that I played in that sense, I know that I was chosen for this. So sometimes, I got caught up in being mad about the negative things where I wasted too much time there. Right. So it took me a moment to realize, like, hey, man, you got to get yourself together right now because life is happening. And it doesn't make sense to try and do everything that you want to do in this life if it's not hurting nobody else. Don't let nobody hold you back. Try and do everything. Now, I don't want to be defined by only Kut Klose. I want to be able to do all kinds of stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like I act, I do plays, I do some movies or whatever. I'm writing, some things when it comes down to like I got a little YouTube series things that I'm doing about, my life and my kids and the music industry and Kut Klose and how, certain things, you know,
Yeah,
and
let's talk about that.
huh?
You said, yeah, let's talk about that because I want to. A lot of people don't know. who Tabitha is per se. You know what I'm saying? They know Kut Klose, but they don't really just know you. So like, talk a little bit more about the stuff that you have going on individually. I know we touched on Kut Klose a little bit, but I want to focus more so on you before we dive into the questions on the award show.
Well, yeah, I found out that I had a lot of different talents that, I feel like I would be an asset in. And so, more importantly, I want the generation, our culture to realize how important they are to continue um, the fight of not feeling shunned as a person, right?
Mm.
Because I am a mother of two teenage daughters. I'm raising them alone by myself. And so my thought process in valuing what it looks like for me to do everything that I possibly can and be the best example that I can be. I know that I have to be more involved and community and my experiences and giving it to them and trying to show through the insight that I have of how one should look at themselves so they can always feel superior and not inferior to anyone in their journey. And I think that if we do that, then we have the ability to change the trajectory of how people feel about themselves so they won't feel so infuriated and angry all of the time to bust out of the shadows of the preconceived notion of what life has already given us by doing this. Everything is like crushing us right. You know what I'm saying? So I want people to know how special they are so they won't ever deny themselves the ability to attain everything without having to struggle so hard for it. And we have to do that by showing up in numbers of community of being together culturally. I really want people to know that. So in order to figure out what that is, I want people to find out the value of family. And so, in order to get people into your homes, you got to give them something that's on their level so they can grow with you. And when they grow with you, they got a chance to formulate an important part of their life to know what their purpose is. Because a lot of people go through life and not ever know their purpose. They just go through the hustle and bustle of, ooh, I became an accountant. I've been here for 30 years. Now I'm retired and I can get $1,800 a month without doing anything. And it's like, that's what you want your life to be? That's it? You know what I mean? And so if you ever heard of the Boondocks, you ever heard of the Boondocks?
Yeah, yeah, that's classic.
So that came into our culture in a way where it was like for us to gravitate to it and take be like, man, this it makes us feel like home because this is how we talk to each other and this is, our culture way of communication, right? And so I think that if you can make anything that makes people gravitate to it where it changes the way that people move is a movement, right? And so we do that culturally through music. We do that culturally through films, because we attach ourselves to music and clothes and perception of what we see or what we think about ourselves. This is what we emulate through life. Whether we're choosing a boyfriend or choosing a girlfriend, it's what they look like, what they choose to put on, how they talk with their mouth. You know what I mean? But without being the hypocrite, but showing your place and what you're supposed to do together to be able to rise instead of stay on the same level of, I got my heel on your forehead, right? And so I want to give people that something that's, inviting and, give them a sense of, I guess, easement with, okay, this makes me feel like because she's black, because we need togetherness. And so we need everything that we possibly can to show what that looks like, what that means, togetherness. You know what I mean? And so in order to play my part, I feel like I have to touch those avenues where it gets people comfortable in talking about or having a conversation to see what's needed. Like you won't never know how to heal a community unless you're able to penetrate to know where it's sick at, right? And so the way that we communicate with each other makes us, feel together. Like I did a TikTok with my daughters the other day, and I'm like, 2 minutes is up. They had like 500 freaking doggone likes. I'm like, what? Off of a TikTok? But it's communication, right? So if you understand those things, and you understand how to get to people to get a conversation to say, oh, you a part of the picnic, or we're gonna take you to the picnic, if you will, right? And so I want to be able to penetrate that, and so I got to give them more than just singing. I got to give them an outlet, to become, a participant in, to be involved in, to show them a better way to do things and a better way to see things, because they're only, it's like candy. It's a kid in the candy store. They be like, ooh, colors, look, ooh, that look good. You know what I'm saying? This is what life is when they present that to you. So I'm an adult now where I can take, the responsibilities that I have brought to the table, and you have to nurture that. And for me, it's not only singing, you know what I'm saying? So it's through the communication of creating something for people to see, to become a part of, to have a conversation, be like, oh man, that happened in my family too. Or heck yeah, you see that? You know what I'm saying? It's a conversation piece. And in it, you got to give people something where it uplifts who they are and want them to feel like, hey, man, I am royalty. We need to get that out, because we got too many haters. And if you got too many haters, that means people ain't secure with themselves. You know what I mean? We got to build an Anaconda. You know what I'm
Agree.
saying?
Agree.
Wakanda was like Anaconda. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We got to build that, the
Yeah, I
thought
agree.
process. You
I
know what I'm
agree.
saying? And so to do that, you have to start at the bottom sometimes. And that's going into these communities when these kids are young. You know what I mean? Because they are the future. You know what I mean? So it's don't discount them because they can't vote yet. These are the next jokers. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So you have to pay attention to that and what they see. And that's why it's important. You know what I'm saying? What's in the school systems. You know what I mean? And if we don't talk about it, if we don't make it a conversation, then they're just going to repeat everything over and over again. You know what
Right.
I mean? So I want to be a piece of the pie where I'm giving out some good information for them to see, something that looks like them, something that's on their level, and to learn how to appreciate and warrant something that looks better than just giving people just the bare minimum.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Because you go into our communities, you go to, the theaters that we see. I'm like, why does our theater look like this? Why does our grocery stores look like that? Why does our
Mm.
streets look like this? You know what I mean? Why do our award shows have to have a rinky dink building that we doing our award shows in? You know
Mm.
what I mean? Why are we on the level of this and everybody else is on the level of this? We got to figure out how to not be down here. And it's thought process.
Right.
And it's what's going into your system when you're young. Because you're still keeping the same format of bullcrap, so we got to break that chain. And that's where I feel like we need to make a point in. And you have to be a better example, and it can't be everybody out here showing, breasts and booty all the time.
Right.
You know what I
Facts.
mean? There's more to it than, what my booty looks like. Yeah, we hear some beautiful women. Black women are beautiful. You
Definitely.
know what I'm saying? But we don't need to be known by the ones who's always showing, you know what I'm saying?
I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm with
You know what I mean? So I want to emulate that into our spirit. You know what I mean? And so when people do, have the opportunity to look at us like this, we're going viral on TikTok in a lot of different ways. You know what I mean? When you have the opportunity, you have to step up to the plate.
you.
So
Mm.
right now it's our turn, because people who are young knows now. They know about who Kut Klose is. They know the song. They don't know the faces. But the reason why they don't know the faces is because we're not out there doing the stuff that we need to do. But we're learning how to do that. You know what I mean? Because social media is a completely different kind of ball game.
Yes.
But it does reach the masses. So we got to figure out what that looks like, and take a hold of that. And that's through health, that's through mental health, that's through clothing, that's through fitness to keep yourself together. You know what I'm saying? That's through musical things. You know what I mean? That's through what people only accept. I mean, you go out there and learn stuff for yourself. Don't just accept what someone tell you. You go do research. You know what I mean? So you can have your own answers, so you can be educated. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I want to be a part where, I give some kind of upliftment for them to know that they're great, and walk with your chest high and your head high and not down. You know what I'm saying? I'm raising some queens over here. I'm not going to raise no bashful, like, well, yeah, I guess. I'm not raising that kind.
Right. Right. Facts.
I'm raising
Facts.
that kid that's going to look at you in your eyeball sockets. You feel me?
For
And
sure.
answer you straight on. You know what I'm saying? We need to raise those people who are not easily influenced and not easily broken. You know what I mean? I want to work on that part. And so when I write songs and stuff like that, I don't want that just to be the only thing. I want to get into a spiritual movement and get people on the same page, so we can do more than just listen. We can become a part of the conversation, where it's like, no, you're not talking to us like that anymore. That's what I really want.
Right.
You know what I mean? I want that equality part of knowing that you up here, you're not down here. You know what I mean? So it's about what I give out. And so I'm trying to do that. And so I want that series to be about real life. You know what I mean? And through whatever it is that come your way. I don't want it to just be focused on. I don't want to be stuck in no one situation. So I have to be an example. So I have to motivate everyone by example. So I'm trying to be that example. And I'm straightening up as I go, whether it's through conversation, whether it's through the way that I look, whether it's through music that I do, because I have a lot of songs, you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, it doesn't make sense to have them just in your computer. It's out there for everybody to have. You know what I
Right.
mean? We are here to service people. That's why you're here on the face of the earth. I am here to be of service to you and you and you and you and you gonna love me. Yeah.
There you go.
You gonna love me. Yes, you are.
Talk to
You
me.
know what I'm saying? So I want to be that. I want to be that kind of leader. You know what I mean? I want to
Mm,
leave everything on the table to walk with me. You know what I'm saying? I want to be that for somebody. And I'm
yeah.
going to be that. I'm already that. I just got
Yeah.
to recondition it in a different way where I come out, you know what I'm saying, with a different outfit on.
Yeah, for
You know what I'm
sure.
saying?
For sure.
Still
For
walking
sure.
with
So,
confidence, boy. I want a podcast like you too. You know what I'm
oh,
saying?
you
Because
got it.
because I feel like information is very important. So it's like I want to take it around the world. Like I go to your house, then I go to the next man's house, and I go to the next man's house, and I go to the next man's house. Before you know it, we look like Malcolm or Malcolm X when that joker did this, and everybody turned to the freaking right or the left.
Mm-hmm.
Boosh. In sync. You know what I'm
That's,
saying?
that's right. No,
So
I'm on
you take one, and we become a multitude, but we got to be on one accord.
for sure.
So, and that's what's important. You know what I mean? Even more important to this than this music, because we can love the music, but we ain't acting like we love each other.
Right. Right. No, I'm
I
with
want
you.
that. I
I'm
want
with you.
that.
And I know, just from hearing you talk about it, I know I can tell there's something you're very passionate about. So I know that you're going to be able to do that and more. You know what I mean? Just because of you can feel it. You know what I'm saying? You can feel your love and your appreciation for wanting to do this for everybody and bring everybody together. So I know you definitely gonna do that. In the podcast, that ain't nothing. You would easily be able to handle that. Like that ain't nothing. I can tell just by what I'm saying conversating with you. So I can even give you some tips on that too. So by the way, but we'll talk about that later. But anyway, uh, so the last thing before we get up out of here is going to be let's talk about the award show. So the album music award show. You've so how have you been involved with the album music award show?
Well, Zeus called me, oh man, maybe about 6 years ago, maybe something like that. It was a long time ago. But he wanted me to host the Album Music Awards. And I'm like, why me? Like, why? But obviously, there's people watching when you don't think they are.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so I've also been a DJ on the radio. I've had an iHeart radio show. It was called Two Dope Girls that we did on 96.9 FM here in Atlanta. And so I have some kind of skills with I got gift of the gab, as you can tell a little bit. You know what I'm saying? I can talk, and so he saw that in me and asked me if I would mind taking a shot at it. And I'm like, sure.
Okay.
Why wouldn't I? And I brought my group. You know what I'm saying? We did a song. You know what I mean? Brought them there. There to pay homage and to be a part. I like to help anybody who's doing something in the industry and is always there to uplift the community. You know what I mean? I love what Zeus is doing. So I believe in uh, doing what I can do in order to help, anything like this, to flourish. You know what I
Gotcha.
mean? And it's something that I've always wanted to do too. So it was something that, wasn't really hard to say yes to.
Mhm. I got you. I got you. Um, so why do you feel like how I should say it like this? Okay, the album music awards. Like, what would you say makes it very important to any artist that's trying to grow? Like, what about that platform makes it important to artists?
That, it gives people, I guess, an avenue to showcase a talent that doesn't get a lot of notoriety when it comes down to individualism if you're not in certain places, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or certain rooms to be able to get a chance to perform on an award show or to be appreciated for your talent. Because, you got to know a lot of people to get into positions because everybody's trying to get to a certain point, right? I don't think I want that smoke like Beyonce got though. I don't want to be that big where I can't walk into no grocery store
Right.
and get out there without people being who is that? Oh, that I don't want to. I don't want that Michael Jackson kind of. You know what I mean? I don't want that. I still want to be able to enjoy life. So I think that when it comes down to musical talent, which is a wonderful thing to have, it gives you the ability to not only bring positive action to being able to be an artist and get the opportunity and the stage to see what it would be like and give you a little bit more of a vision of where you would like to go and a taste of what it could be like. It gives you a view of, dang man, this is what I really want to do. If you really want to do it, it will solidify the thoughts that you have of yourself. You know what I mean? It gives you the opportunity to grow. Like I said, anything that you can take to be able to, put some time in to show what God has given you, take the opportunity. And sometimes we had to pay or didn't get paid at all. You know what I'm saying? So it ain't really about that. It's not about the one off. You know what I'm saying? It's a preparation of.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I don't want to ever kill nobody's dreams because, this business ain't for everybody. But it still gives people a way to live out their dreams. You know what I mean? Without somebody else having to say, well, you got to go through this to get over here on this side. You know what I mean? There's only so
Yeah.
many people that's going to make it in Hollywood.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So other people need to have other avenues to be able to, do some other things too without having to say, well, I can never get over there. You know what I mean? So
Right.
being able to create other, establishments, across the world to give people the opportunity to feel that, when other people won't is a wonderful thing that he's implementing to not only to people's lives, but to, the world.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Of hope. You know what I'm saying? Or different avenues. That ain't always just got to be the Grammys. You know what I mean? Like the Grammys was only one day.
Right.
There's 364 more days.
Right.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So what are you gonna do with it? You know what I mean? Do you not become a part of the conversation because you waiting on somebody else that will never call you? You go out, you gotta go out there and get it yourself. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? So if he had dreams of creative stuff and ain't nobody gonna let it, he made it himself.
Right.
You know what I
That's
mean? So anytime that you get in a position where somebody has the ability to have the drive and the power and the vision, to be able to do it and actually successfully make it happen, hey man, you can't do nothing but take your hats off. And that's for
right.
anybody who gets to a point where they're even recognized on that stage.
Mm-hmm.
They did something to get there.
Yeah. No,
And
I'm
that's
with
what
you.
I meant a long time ago when I said you can't trick the universe of you putting time.
Right. Yep.
You know what I'm
No, I
saying?
agree. I agree.
So
Um, so I guess the last thing before we get up out of here is just going to be, because I know you got things you got to do. So, the last thing I would say is, tell the people really quick, where they can find you at on any social platforms and things like that, so they can make sure they keep up with you as far as whether it be your music, whether it be your podcast that we know you're gonna start, and or whether it be your YouTube series as well.
I have so many visions and so many dreams, uh, that's going to come about. I got a lot of things in the works. It takes a minute to build a team. You know what I'm saying? Some people, sometimes you got to drop people off because they ain't acting right. You got to pick somebody else up along the way. You learn along the way. But I could be found on all platforms, I guess. TikTok's Tabitha Duncan. I don't really have many people on TikTok. I'm still learning that. My daughters and they teaching me stuff of that. Instagram is Tabitha Cut Close, and that's one word, Tabitha, TABITHA KUTKLOSE. You better not spell it with a C, homie, because the only thing that's spelled with a C is that word that we don't want to say, and it ends
Right,
with a T with two letters in between.
right, right,
And that
right.
ain't me. You understand what
Nah,
I'm
nah,
saying?
not at all, not at all.
And Tabitha Duncan on Facebook, you know. So and Cut Close, of course, KUTKLOSC. All you gotta do is put in that name. I'm sure a lot of stuff will come up with where to find and where, we got shows coming up. We got City Winery in Philadelphia coming up on the 22nd of February. The 21st, we start the tour with Keith them. We got about 20 cities with Keith, which we're very excited about doing. Is us, Keith, Drew Hill, Joe, um, Genuine, and somebody else. It's so bad. I wish it was Silk. I miss my brothers, but it's So we're gonna be coming to a city near you soon. I'm sure tickets are on sale now. The first show I believe is in Virginia and DC area, but we won't be on that one. We'll be doing a show with Teddy on the 14th, which is Valentine's Day next week in Miramar, Florida. And yeah, we're looking forward to a lot of things, and I'm trying to figure out how I can become, more involved in the community than just, singing on a song. You know what I mean? There's so many different avenues that I feel like we should tap into, that we should, take shape of, and become a force. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm ready to, be on that journey, if you will, and never slip on the other side. There's more to me than just, singing Get Up On It and Surrender and I Like. You know what I mean? I do have drive and I do have passion of, equality when it comes down to people and a creed and a culture. And, I'm always for what's right, but there's a time for everything. So always read the room.
Always read the room. That's the new motto.
Yep, read the room, baby.
For sure.
Man.
So I want to take this time out to tell you that I definitely appreciate all your time today because we've been on this thing almost an hour, so I definitely appreciate your time. I know you got a lot of things going on, so I definitely appreciate you coming on today.
I took all your time up by my bad,
You
My
are
mouth,
you good?
my mouth
It's all,
dies a bunny, baby.
you good? It's good talking to you for sure. So yeah, it ain't no problem at all. I promise.
All right,
Promise.
then.
Um, so everybody that's out there watching, thank you all for watching another episode of the AMA Entertainment TV Network. And we just had the 1/3 of the band Kut Klose, and we'll see you all next episode. Peace.
But, all right.
Don't
Forget to